let's take a look at perspective warp. Okay, so with perspective warp, we can do even more crazy stuff, more number crunching, things like that. This is a relatively new feature in Photoshop, but really, really neat technology. So this is my image. I've taken a lot of time to paint this out and make sure that the background is looking pretty good. So I am going to duplicate this into this layer, and I'm going to try and set it up so that it looks like it's blending in, as though this were really there. All right, so let's come back over to here. How do we do this again? You guys should be very familiar with this by now. Right click on the layer and go to duplicate layer. Okay, we're going to specify our destination as this file up here. So, okay, so now let's go there, and oh my, it doesn't even look close. Look at that. If I move that down, I grab the move tool up here is what I did. All right, that really does not look like it's going to fit in with that perspective. Okay, I think we can do a little bit better than that. See how if this is my my perspective line, this end of the bus is really whacked out, right? So let's grab that bus. I'm going to hit, come up here and say, edit perspective warp, okay? And now I have this up here. So there's two different modes that you work in, okay? The first one is layout, and we're going to create grids for the different faces of the bus so that we can change things as we need to. All right, and once we're finished with that, then we can go to warp. This will align your grid, your perspective warps to vertical lines that may be in the image already. This will align it to horizontals, and this will align it to all three. I find that it doesn't work as well as I would like. So let's get to work here. All right, so I'm going to draw a box. All right, and we have these things are called pins. You'll notice that the icon changes when I hover over them. All right, so let's move this down to here. You'll see why I'm doing this in a moment. I'm moving this guy up here. All right. So now we have that. So if I wanted to draw another box, see how we get a blue line there? That means that Photoshop realizes that these are corners, okay? So I can come into here and I can kind of set that, okay? So now we've got all of that ready to go. Maybe fine tune this just a wee bit more, okay? So it's almost as though you're drawing a perspective grid on each face of this. So we have a face that is going in this direction and this direction. Then we have one that's going in a different direction. I believe there are X, Y, and Z axes. I haven't gotten too much into that in my career, but maybe that's what these grids are meant to display. So we've got that. Go to warp, okay? And now I can take this edge of the bus and I can distort this. This is something that we could not do with just the other normal tools that we were working in Photoshop. So I can pull this down. Maybe I want to align this a little bit more. Squeeze that perspective a bit. Something along those lines. And then I can pull this. I think that looks pretty good. So we've got that. What would happen if we did hit this? Let's take a look. Yeah, not so much, right? Not so much. I don't think that's quite working for me there. So let's go back and adjust it again. I don't know how many undos I can get here. Yeah, so that's not going to do a whole lot for me. So we're going to have to go back and readjust this. All right. I kind of like the slope on the front of the bus there. This really twisted things around when I hit that. I believe this was a little bit more forward. it's okay if it's too big because we can always scale it down anyway. So let's hit enter, see how that works. There we go, math. All right. So now I'm going to hit Control T, just a normal transform. I'm going to scale that down a little bit. All right. So in our last project we worked with adjustment layers. I think that the color on this bus is a bit whacked out. I'm not sure that this really looks like it's blending in. So let's add an adjustment layer. I'm going to go for color balance. Before I do anything though, I'm coming over to here. I'm going to right click on color balance and then I'm going to say create clipping mask. Let's do that one more time. So I created my, hold on, let's do this again. We'll do it one more time. Alright, so this is my layer. Anytime you create a new layer, the new layer is going to go above that. Alright, this is your icon for color adjustment layers. I'm going to say color balance, and it has added a new color balance layer. But if I start to mess around with those things, it's going to change the color for the whole image, and we don't want that. So I'm going to right click on the word color balance 1, and I'm going to say create a clipping mask. Now you'll notice that there's a little downward arrow. That means it will only affect that layer. So I'm thinking it looks like it needs some blue and maybe less yellow. There, that's already starting to blend in a bit more. Alright, now let's check out shadows. Maybe not so much there. Oh, we're in highlights. This is really sensitive. So let's go down to shadows. Alright. That's not so bad. And so now we can click out of that. Let's see what it looked like before. It's very warm. It seems to be a pretty cool sky in this one. Okay, so that's one adjustment layer. Let's add another one. It still looks kind of bright, so I'm going to come up here under curves. Okay, and we're going to right click on curves to make sure that this is only going to affect the bus. And I'm going to pull this down, and now it's starting to look like it belongs in that picture. Alright, but there's still one thing that kind of glares out at me. There's no shadow under that bus, right? So let's click on the background layer. Okay, and then I'm going to click down here on new page, new layer, and we got a new layer. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to get a big soft brush. So I'm going to come up here, set my hardness to 0. Okay, I'm going to make sure that black is on top, so we can click here and reverse those, or we can hit the X key and do the same thing. Okay, so I have my brush. I'm going to hit the close bracket and make my brush much bigger. Okay, I'm going to set the opacity on my brush way down because we're going to build this up gradually. And let's start putting some shadow under here. Kind of feel like Bob Ross. There are no accidents. They're just happy little mistakes, right? So there we go. It's starting to look like it's actually supposed to be there now. So let's say we're still not quite happy with how the bus looks in there. I can come up and I can link these things. So I've got layer 2 selected, layer 1 selected. Alright. In Illustrator we could group things, and we can also kind of do that with layers. So I'm going to link them. Notice how we have these chains here now. So that means what I do to one of these, if I Control T, there we go. The shadow will scale with the bus now. Okay, let's get this out of the way so we can see what we're doing. And there we have it. So, content aware, sort of, but not necessarily. So this is definitely your perspective warp. You'll be able to do this if you're working with architecture. You can, when you have the blue lines where your grids join, you can do all kinds of stuff with that. So Have fun with this, see how you like it, and the next demo we'll do will be the puppet warp, which is really crazy. I think you'll really like that one. Okay?